Good evening, I'm Richard Rellis, in tonight for Jose Cardenas. The Honorary Consul of Honduras and Arizona is here to discuss the children from Central America crossing the border into Texas and being relocated here to Arizona. Also, we'll talk about the congressional races in our state. And One Valley School District is taking the classroom outdoors. All this coming up straight ahead on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thank you for joining us. Yesterday, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson made his first visit to the Arizona facility housing mostly Central American children caught crossing the border illegally. He says he will continue to discourage parents from sending their kids to the U.S. With me tonight to talk about what is happening in Nogales is the Honorary Consul to Honduras, here from Arizona, Tony Benegas. Thanks for joining us. You've spent some time down in Nogales. You've seen this firsthand. What's it like down there?
It's quite an experience. You have to be there to see it, and I'm glad that the media was allowed to go in last week. So
I mean, do those pictures do it justice? Is it?
Not really. I was there 8 days, from June 7th through the 15th. You know, spend 8 to 10 hours a day. You have to see it, you be there. I cannot describe it to you in words, but pictures, and they don't allow you to take pictures, but it's quite a deal to see 1,300 children plus 200 adults, you know, the guards that work at the facility. So it's quite a sight to see.
And something you've done that reporters didn't get to do was actually talk to these kids. In general, what are we hearing? Why are they coming here? What did they expect would happen when they arrived?
Well, I've been asked that question many times. I can tell you what my experience after talking to over 400 children from Honduras, anywhere from 6 to 17 years old. They're coming, 95% of the children that I talk to have a parent here in the U.S., and it's about 10 to 15% have both parents in the U.S. Some have not seen their parents in 15 years. Some don't even know their parents, which I think is a sad story. The mom left when they were a year old or even 6 months old. But what they tell me based on my conversations is they're coming to go to school. They're getting ready to go to high school. They're in 8th, 9th grade, and they come in to be reunited with their parents. Oh,
that like now this is the, do you think this was the plan for some of these families? This was the plan all along? That I'm gonna cross, and when you are old enough to make the walk, to make the journey on your own, you can do it?
That's what I hear. I mean, there are stories, you know, a lot of stories in the media that, you know, rumors that maybe the border was open to minors, and again, I can only tell you what I hear from the one I spoke to, that they're, you know, the parents sent for them this time, and they're here to meet their parents, a lot of time for the first time, many times for the first time.
What we also hear is that they're fleeing violence. And I mean, how bad is the situation in Honduras? You were just down there in May to visit your parents.
Yeah, I go to Honduras 3 to 4 times a year. What I tell folks, I mean, you can Google in Honduras, you can see the statistics. You know, there's no secret that we have the dubious title of having the most dangerous city in the world. You know, San Pedro Sula, worse than Juarez and Baghdad, I think. So we do have a lot of challenges. And one of the things that I ask when I interview the children, if they come in from San Pedro Sula or Tegucigalpa, the 2 larger cities, I would ask the neighborhoods, because I know, you know, some of the neighborhood would face a lot of challenges.
Right, the good pockets and the bad pockets.
So I would ask this question, but the great majority, they all come from all over Honduras. I'm fortunate enough that I know Honduras pretty well. So they come from all over, from east, west, south, central, small communities, urban communities, all over the place.
So you think they're not all fleeing violence? They're not all coming here scared?
No, that's not a misconception. I think there are some that were well-behaved children attending school. They live with an aunt or grandma or some family members. So the great majority are, again, good kids that want to see their parents and want to go to school.
And I guess for 2 things that you have with you that I guess bring perspective to this. I know you probably can't show this to the camera because it contains phone numbers, but this book that you have in front of you has your interviews with these children. You have names, you have phone numbers, you have addresses, and I guess maybe if you can flip through and just kind of give me an idea of how
you know, the process, I would bring 10 at a time to the cell that I was given to. I would tell them, you know, what's happening, because you have to understand these children have gone through a lot. 5 to 15 days in bus, to spend 5 days in Texas, in a cold prison. Then they spend 5 other days in Nogales. So I would ask, length of time they spend in Texas and also in Nogales. I would ask if they came by themselves. They would tell me some stories that we don't have time to go into, some
Right.
remarkable stories. I would ask, who they live with in Honduras, grandma, the uncle. And then I asked who they have here in the U.S. And they would tell me their mom or dad. And the amazing story, they all, even as young as 8 years old, they remember that phone number of their mom.
And I guess one thing, as I just flipped through, this is a calendar that you started putting this in. This starts in January and ends in June. Just name after name, address, phone number.
Yes, some interesting factors about children, their parents, documenting exactly where they're coming from, where they're going. Some amazing stories, somebody who was kidnapped for 4 days, and they'll tell me the story. Was kidnapped in Reynosa and kept for 4 days in a house, knowing what's going to happen. Some amazing stories.
And the other thing you brought is the blanket. This is the blanket we've seen on
On TV.
TV.
Yeah,
It's in that little packet.
It's a disposable blanket. They get this every day. When I first arrived on Saturday the 7th, they were still on the floor. There were no mattresses. They were sleeping on the floor. They would get this blanket. So when I come in the morning, it's a sight to see when you see 1,000 children in the morning at 8 o'clock, and all you see is their little heads sticking out of these blankets, some asleep. But this is what it looked like. And
Is this what they expected when they came?
absolutely not. I think I was telling you earlier that children all over the world expect to be treated differently because they're children, and that's one of the amazing stories among the many stories that I have. That I was helping to explain to them what is happening, but they expected to be treated differently because they're children. Children expected to be treated well.
Yeah. How long do you think we will continue to see children in these numbers try to make this journey?
I wish I could tell you next week. Unfortunately, there are more children coming in daily. About 140 come in still to Nogales. The good news is there are 140 that are also leaving for shelter daily. But I know there are things in place on the border, and the U.S. border, and also in Honduras, trying to stop the flow of children. So there are different measures being taken right now to stop the flow. So I'm hoping by the next 3 months,
What are some of those measures? I mean, is it? We had the Homeland Security man, Jay Johnson from this country, this week send a message saying, "Don't come. You can't stay.
You'll be
There's gonna
deported."
no permits."
Yes.
Is that going to work? Will that
Well,
message get through?
probably not. As you know, this is very complex. Vice President Biden was in Guatemala 3 days ago, met with the president in Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, and to stress that we have a campaign to let parents know that the border isn't open. They don't need to take the chance. So that is just part of the issue. But the big thing is this challenge, the desire from children to be with their parents. I mean, how do you control that? They're creating economic conditions in our country so the children stay there and the parents stay there. So it's very complex, and it'll take some time before it settles down.
But it also sounds like you're saying that this is not just simply conditions in the country that are driving this, that for some of these families you talk to, this has long been the plan.
It has been the plan. A lot of those families that I talked to, they've been here for a long time. They have what is called a TPS, which is a legal status for Hondurans after Hurricane Mitch. It's temporary, but they had it for 12 years. Some become residents, they by marriage or by some legal way they became residents, so they do have a legal status. And they think it's the time right now to bring their children and reunite with their children.
But is there a process that allows that legally? Do the parents know the immigration system enough to think that if I bring my kid here, he's going to stay? Or are stories about the Deferred Action Program and sort of the leniency that the administration is showing, is that sending the signal that this is the time to come up?
Probably both. I mean, there are nonprofit institutions throughout the U.S. that can help them, with this to go through the process. So probably both, a little bit of both. And
I guess when people see the images and they see the blankets on people, they feel they want to. If they want to help, what would be your advice if there's Americans seeing these images who think those are kids, the legal system will deal with them, the immigration system will deal with them, but I want to help them while they're in this facility. Is there anything Americans can do?
I've been getting a lot of calls and emails from people. That's, again, out of this tragedy, that's one good thing that I've seen. I'm not surprised. A lot of good people that want to help. Unfortunately, there's nothing they can do right now. This is a detention facility. access is very restricted. I mean,
We can't send in board
you
games or
cannot-
blankets
we
or
cannot-
food.
I mean, they're allowing some goods, and but very limited basis. You know, there was a challenge we had with the management because the mayor of Nogales was ready, you know, the second day to bring clothing and shoes, and they were not allowed in, because they were saying that they had their own facility, their own vendors. So after a week later, they finally allowed, you know, clothing and shoes to come in. So, but to your question, there's nothing that can be done at this point. From here now they go to a shelter, wherever there's an open bed anywhere. Could be in New York, could be in Los Angeles, San Antonio, and then they'll go. Hopefully, the decision will be made to reunite or the deportation.
And lastly, do you think the government should have anticipated this situation? Or was this something that was a surprise?
I wouldn't want to speculate. I can tell you by asking all the parents, they tell me this is the right time. They were saving funds to bring the children here. A small percentage maybe have heard this rumor that there was some leniency on the laws.
And the crime, and
the
it's all
crime.
coming
So
together.
all,
now.
you know, again, it's very complex.
Tony Menegas, thank you for joining. Honorary, by the way, we should mention means unpaid, volunteer. So we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us
Thank
today.
you very much for having me tonight.
The Arizona primary is 2 months away. Here with us to talk about what's happening in the Arizona congressional races, particularly the race to replace Congressman Ed Pastor, is Rebecca Sanders, reporter with the Arizona Republic, my colleague over there. Subscribe.azcentral.com. We should get that out of the way. And Rebecca Sanders, if that is your real name, because who knows anymore with all the stuff going on in this race.
This race is all about names.
We should start with Cesar Chavez.
Which one?
First of all, did he go by Cesar or Cesar Chavez? How did he pronounce it?
That's a great question. I can't quite remember.
How did we find out who he was? I mean, you look through the campaign filings and suddenly you see the name Cesar Chavez and you figure this cannot be the famed labor leader.
Right. Yeah.
Where do we go from there? How do we find out? How do you get to go knock on this guy's door?
So when Ed Pastor announced he was retiring after decades in Congress, one of the names that popped out as filing for this race was Cesar Chavez. And clearly in this very largely Hispanic district, that name would carry a lot of weight, you know, no matter who owns that name.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the civil rights leader who's deceased, it would still ring bells with voters. So I started questioning who this was, and it was just a lot of digging, and then eventually a tip that we figured out who this really was. And
Who is he really?
his former name is Scott Fistler, and he was a Republican who ran in the same race 2 years ago, as well as city council last year, and then very politically savvy, and decided that he was going to change his name and party affiliation to have a better shot.
Is this fun for him? Did he think he could actually win? Was he trying to be a gadfly, a distraction? Did you get a sense of why he might be doing this?
I think that he sincerely believed he wasn't going to be found out, because I was the first and only reporter to actually talk to him and get him on the phone before we had the story out there. And he said, he hung up on me when I essentially laid out to him that I knew who he was.
Hey, Scott. He didn't like that. Yeah.
That's right. I think, though, it's coming from a genuine place of his wanting to have a meaningful place in the world. Honestly, he's a disabled military veteran who is unemployed, and I think he saw this as a way that he could get a better leg up in the political process and maybe gain some supporters.
To at least be seen. He wasn't doing
To
this
be
then
seen.
in a mean-spirited way.
I don't think it was mean-spirited at all, and in fact, I think he was a little bit caught off guard by the negative blowback.
Well, and again, I mean, I think it's been made sport of, but the hearing, the court hearing, because we had the grandson of the labor leader taking him to court to get him off the ballot, the hearing was very emotional, right?
Right. It was kind of incredibly surreal and scene to have Chavez versus Chavez, and the Cesar Chavez, the candidate, representing himself, going up on the witness stand and essentially cross-examining himself because he didn't have the funds to hire an attorney, and winging it essentially, and breaking down in tears on the stand as he talked about the military service of his family, and kind of making the case that I'm just trying to do my duty to my country. I'm not really trying to hurt anybody. But of course, his opponents in the race and also many political observers felt like, yeah, but this is a pretty cynical way to participate in the political process.
Had he not been removed from the ballot, do you think is this race tight enough that he would have been maybe a difference maker?
That was another one of the reasons that I started really trying to dig into this guy's background, because it's probably going to be such a close race. This is probably going to come down to Ruben Gallego, former state lawmaker, and Mary Rose Wilcox, a former county supervisor, both very well-known, strong campaigns. They are going to be trying to knock each other out, and if the vote between them is very small, anybody taking votes away could make a difference.
And the other name game was in that race too. What did Mary Rose think she would accomplish with the Ruben Gallego thing? Was there something there at the root of it? By questioning his name change.
That's right. So Mary Rose Wilcox had a bit of a campaign stumble recently when she filed a lawsuit that essentially sought to get Ruben Gallego off the ballot, or at least to modify his name on the ballot by saying he hadn't legally changed his name. In fact, he had. And when this lawsuit was filed, it gave him a platform to not only show that he had followed the rules, but to tell the story of why he dropped his last name, because it was his father's who abandoned the family, and he wanted to take on his single mother's last name instead because it was more representative of him.
Mary Rose Wilcox is an accomplished politician. She's been in office. She's been in public life. Do we think, or did she say that she didn't know why he had changed his name? Was this something that she didn't ask or vet, or?
It's an open question how gettable this information was. When Gallego went to court to change his last name, the clerk who was filing the paperwork, in fact, misspelled his last name. And so the search online does not pull up his records.
So if Mary Rose thought he was trying to hide something, the online records themselves were something she couldn't access because she didn't know where they were. Yeah.
Probably, although the Gallego campaign argues that with greater due diligence and deeper research, they should have found it, and that the Wilcox campaign was sloppy. That remains
and I guess at some point, because just like we did with Scott Fissler, a reporter might have asked, someone from the Wilcox campaign might have even asked Ruben himself why he changed his name. I don't know whether candidates probably don't ask that of each other, but some way to find out what it truly was, because it seemed like he was able to run with this pretty well that day that it broke.
What I think about in this campaign tactic is, should they have seen that the potential blowback was probably greater than the potential benefit of doing this? Although if they had been able to get Gallego off the ballot, that would have been huge. It would have essentially ended the race. So it was pretty tantalizing to try and make this move. but ultimately it did not turn out the way that they had hoped.
That maybe it would have been worth it. And eventually we'll get down to issues in this race, correct? Yeah, in this race.
I hope not.
It's more fun to do than names.
Way more fun.
Rebecca Sanders will follow the coverage on AZ Central and the Arizona Republic. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
The Roosevelt School District is taking the classroom outdoors in the form of a community garden and orchard. Lawrence Robinson, a Roosevelt School District Governing Board member, is here to talk about the project. But first, yesterday, we have to address you at a news conference, sort of talking about John Huppenthal. Tell us briefly what you said.
Absolutely. Well, John Huppenthal represents all of our public schools throughout the state. And I, along with Lisa Graham Keegan, Michael Kelly, Daniel Ortega, other education leaders in our state, said that we really need to draw the line on his comments that really are bigoted and have no place in terms of the upper echelon of leadership in education in the state. If you're going to talk about Mexican Americans and other students and the poor in the way that he does, then I think it disqualifies him from really representing their interest in the public school classrooms.
And speaking of public school classrooms, we're talking about growing trees. How nice.
Growing trees is a much better topic and actually really a much more productive way to guarantee student success.
Explain that. Explain what planting a tree does to help a student out.
Well, I saw earlier on your program today you highlighted Dolores Huerta, and she is one of my heroes and one of the heroes, I think, of this nation. And it's because she organized folks who oftentimes worked with their hands in the fields and the orchards themselves to give their kids a better life. Of course, you know that was the history of South Phoenix. We used to have orchards lining the streets along Baseline and Southern Road. I remember as a child going along and just smelling the fruit trees along Baseline, and we've lost a lot of that heritage. And so what we're trying to do with Good Things Grow is bring that heritage back into the classroom and really outside of the classroom. We're planting orchards at every one of our Roosevelt School District schools, and we're also doing it at our Wellness Center, which is at about 10th Street and Baseline. And with those outdoor orchards, we're taking STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math, outdoors. So we're letting our kids get their hands dirty and letting their parents get their hands dirty along with them to learn about the concepts they normally only learn about in the classroom.
So what kind of things are involved? I mean, again, you think of tree goes in ground,
right?
Hose, but are you trying to add engineering, science, technology lessons to this?
Of course, photosynthesis, responsibility, what varieties of trees that we're planting that grow in the desert, that take very little water to sustain, the concepts of nutrition that go along with that, what we feed our bodies feeds our minds. So it's really looking at the holistic concepts of learning and sustainability, something that is an advantage in South Phoenix and in Arizona. It's one of those C's that we always talk about, and really giving the kids a different vantage point to learn about science and nutrition.
What is the status of the project now? I know you have it. It's not in all the schools yet. You're getting ready to plant, and
Right.
you're raising money at Good Things Grow as a nonprofit to try to get this going,
yes.
right?
So Good Things Grow, I think it's .com or .org. I'm a bad publicist here, but check both out. Really, we've raised a lot of good money from folks who care about the district. McCarthy and Core Construction, Gothic Engineering, and others have really stepped up to the plate to donate. Gary Trujillo from Be a Leader, and they've donated money to do what was phase one. Phase one, we put about 90 trees into the ground at the Wellness Center in an empty lot that was actually, it was an empty lot that was housed for traffic and for cars to park in. And now we have 90 trees. It's accessible with paved concrete for anyone in a wheelchair.
Mature trees, sapling, what does it look like?
These are everything from 5 to 24 gallon trees, and they're growing quite well. They're all adapted to the desert, and we've put in public art. Hugo Medina from Calle 16 has helped us with an art project. And so we're actually looking at STEAM. We're adding the A for art into the concept. And I've already had teachers approach us about doing outdoor classrooms. We've worked with Kimber Lanning from Local First, and she's going to be coordinating with local farms. So we're looking at ways to get kids interested in eating right, but also learning about math and science.
And being outside, not during the summer, of course, and learning a bit about history of Phoenix, where food comes from. Boy, this sounds like a good project.
We're enjoying it.
We really appreciate you joining us tonight to talk about it.
Great, thank you very much.
That's our show for tonight. From all of us here at Horizonte and Channel 8, I'm Richard Relis. Have a great night.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.